Hello, I'm Ariel Daniel with the Lowell Observatory, and here's what's in the sky this April. The planets Jupiter and Saturn will be in the morning side of the sky, now a comfortable distance from the Sun and moving further from the Sun each night. Saturn will be in the direction of Capricorn, and Jupiter will move from Capricorn to Aquarius. Venus is in the evening side of the sky, but will remain near enough to the Sun to be difficult to see. Those with a clear horizon might just be able to catch it straight west, almost directly above the Sun, immediately after sunset at the end of the month. Mercury will be moving from the morning to the evening side of the sky on April 18th. For most of the month, it will also be too close to the Sun to see, but those with a clear horizon might be able to see Mercury at the end of the month, right above Venus, just after sunset. Mars lingers in the sky, moving from the constellation Taurus to Gemini. Mars will continue to dim as it recedes from Earth, and by the end of the month will only be visible in the early evening. This month's new moon will be on April 12th, and the full moon will be on the 27th. This month's full moon will roughly coincide with the closest approach of the moon to Earth, making for an especially large and bright appearance that is often called a supermoon. The Lyrid meteor shower will peak this month on the evening of April 21st and the morning of April 22nd. This evening will have a strong gibbous moon that will wash out the light for most of the meteors. For the best viewing this night, consider waiting until very late at night or early morning, after the moon has set, or on the evenings of the 17th and the 18th. Many Lyrid meteors should still be visible, with a somewhat less obtrusive and earlier setting moon to contend with. Lyrid meteors will appear to approach from the direction of the constellation Lyra, the Harp, around the bright star Vega. The Eta Aquarids will peak on May 5th, but will be visible throughout the last third of April. This meteor shower occurs as the Earth moves through debris left by the famous Halley's Comet. Meteors from the shower will tend to appear from the direction of the constellation Aquarius. The winter hexagon is visible, but no longer dominates the sky and sets earlier and earlier in the evening. Its departure from the night sky will be hastened by the lengthening days and later sunsets. The spring sky will become into its own this month. Ursa Major, the Great Bear, will cover much of the northern sky. Ursa Major contains the Big Dipper, perhaps the most famous formation of stars in the sky. Leo is the Lion and contains the bright star Regulus. Using the Big Dipper, one can easily find the North Star, Polaris. Simply follow a line from the two stars at the edge of the Dipper's cup opposite the handle to the next medium brightness star. You'll follow that line in the direction that the cup would be open. You can also use the Big Dipper's handle to find two more constellations, Boötes and Virgo. Astronomers have a saying, arc to Arcturus and spike to Spica. Simply follow the arc of the Big Dipper's handle to these two stars. Arcturus is the fourth brightest star in the night sky overall and the second brightest visible from Flagstaff or farther north. It's also the brightest star of the constellation Boötes, the herdsman. Spica is the brightest star of Virgo, the maiden. Following the aforementioned arc a bit past Spica will bring you to another constellation, Corvus, the crow. Following Boötes later in the night will be the constellations of Corona Borealis, the northern crown, and Hercules, the hero. A bit later in the evening, we'll begin to see the famous constellations of the summer sky. These include the constellations Lyra, the Harp, Cygnus, the Swan, and Aquila, the Eagle. Each of these constellations contains one star of the summer triangle, a triad of exceptionally bright stars. The brightest of these is Vega, in Lyra, which is the next brightest star in the sky after Arcturus. The other two summer triangle stars are Deneb in the constellation Cygnus and Altair in the constellation Aquila. At around the same time that these rise, we can also see another famous summer constellation far to the south, Scorpius, the Scorpion. This constellation contains the star Antares, another of the sky's brightest stars. The spring sky has plenty to see with binoculars. The winter sky's best sights are still visible most of the month, although you'll have to catch them in the very early evening, and some of them will be gone by the end of April. Many of these objects can be found via Orion's famous belt. Following the line the belt makes to the right will take you to the Hyades and Pleiades, two of the most notable star clusters in the sky. If you follow that line to the left, it will take you to Sirius, the night sky's brightest star. Underneath Orion's belt is Orion's sword, and in the middle of the sword is the Orion Nebula, the closest massive star-forming region to us and the brightest one in the sky. The open star cluster Coma Berenices is also a great binoculars target. It can be found behind Leo and was long considered to be the end of the lion's tail. Elsewhere, in between the constellations Gemini and Leo, is the faint constellation of Cancer, the Crab. In the very center of the Crab is another star cluster, the Beehive Cluster. In Ursa Major, the middle star of the Big Dipper's handle is actually two stars, Mizar and Alcor, perhaps the most famous double star in the sky. Mizar and Alcor were used as a test of eyesight by many ancient civilizations. For those with telescopes, the spring sky is rich with galaxies and globular star clusters. Look in between the constellations Leo and Virgo to see the center of the Virgo Supercluster with dozens to hundreds of galaxies viewable with a modest telescope in dark skies. Almost exactly halfway between Denebula in Leo and Vindemiatrix in Virgo, you'll find an area especially dense with galaxies called Markarian's Chain. The globular star cluster M3 can be found between the bright stars Arcturus and Cor Corolli. This is a cluster of some 500,000 stars, about 34,000 light-years away. A bit later in the night, one of the finest globular star clusters in the sky, M13, will be visible. M13 can be found in Hercules. Hercules' torso is a quadrilateral, often known as the keystone. M13 is on the leading edge of the keystone, about 2/3 of the way over between the two stars. M13 has about 250,000 stars and is about 22,000 light-years away. Both of these clusters will be visible with binoculars, but you'll need a telescope to begin to see individual stars. A bit later in the evening, a modest telescope will allow you to see the Ring Nebula. This is one of the most famous planetary nebulae, and one of the easiest to find. Look about halfway in between the two stars of Lyra, opposite Vega, to find it. This month's Deep Sky Challenge is M87. This is the galaxy at the heart of the Virgo Supercluster, which our galaxy is a part of. It is also one of the most massive galaxies in the local universe, estimated at some 200 times the mass of our Milky Way. M87 gained some notoriety a couple years ago, as the black hole in its core was the first ever to have its event horizon imaged. M87 can be found about 1/3 of the way from Vendemiatrix in Virgo to Denebula in Leo. It's just east of Markarian's chain. Good luck. That's all for April's Mars Hill Almanac, and until next time, happy stargazing.